In 1776, the United States was a fragile alliance of 13 colonies clinging to the Atlantic edge of a vast, unknown continent. Today, it spans that landmass as a military, economic, and technological colossus, scaling from a precarious colonial rebellion to global dominance in 250 years required more than a single visionary leader or a lucky war. The nation functioned as an incredibly complex, interlocking system. To understand this growth, we have to look at the country like a piece of technology. We need to examine the physical hardware it was built on, the political operating system that governed it, the processing power that drove its expansion, and the human costs hardwired directly into its code. American power is the calculated output of an engine designed for relentless growth, a system that ran on a precise combination of innovation and profound internal contradictions. The physical foundation of the system starts with its geography, a natural double-lock security setup. With the Atlantic Ocean to the east and the Pacific to the west, the young republic possessed a massive buffer against European empires, while holding perfect gateways for global trade. Inland, the continent is divided by the Mississippi River system. Before reliable roads or railways existed, these interconnected waterways allowed a steamboat to move agricultural goods from the deep interior directly to coastal ports, creating an integrated national market. Beneath that fertile soil lay immense reserves of coal, iron ore, and eventually oil. This immediate access to raw extraction meant the nation could fuel its own industrial factories and build its own infrastructure without relying on foreign imports. This isolated, resource-rich landmass provided the physical infrastructure required to generate massive internal wealth. It gave the country the luxury of focusing inward and expanding its economy without the threat of a foreign invasion. To manage that sprawling hardware, the founders wrote an adaptable operating system, the Constitution. By dividing authority through federalism and creating checks and balances across 3 branches of government, they built a framework designed to absorb political shocks and scale alongside the growing nation. But this system was coated with specific blind spots. The famous opening phrase, "We the people," was strictly defined in practice, excluding women, non-property holding men, and marginalized groups from political participation. The most profound flaw in the code was the coexistence of revolutionary liberty and human bondage. The Southern economy relied on the forced labor of enslaved African Americans to cultivate highly profitable cash crops, linking national wealth directly to systemic brutality. Expanding the system's physical footprint required a second major exploitation. Through the Indian Removal Act, the government dispossessed Native American tribes of their lands, clearing the way for settler expansion at a devastating cost. The political architecture sustained democratic stability for the citizens it recognized, but it hardwired racial hierarchy into the country's core logic, creating fractures that would eventually ignite a civil war. Driven by the ideology of manifest destiny, the country began physically wiring the continent together. Laborers laid thousands of miles of iron tracks across deserts and mountains, shrinking travel times from months to days, and creating a high-speed economic network. A close partnership between government research, academic institutions, and private enterprise accelerated this growth. Factories implemented assembly lines that mechanized labor into continuous, predictable flows, drastically cutting production times and making complex goods accessible to the general public. Keeping this industrial engine running required a constant influx of human capital. Millions of immigrants arrived from Europe, Asia, and Latin America, supplying the critical workforce needed to staff the factories, build the infrastructure, and fuel urban expansion. This rapid growth generated immense wealth for corporate monopolies, but the laborers generating that value faced a much harsher reality. The industrial workforce was frequently packed into cramped, unsanitary tenement housing and subjected to unsafe working conditions for minimal pay. America scaled its processing power through mechanical engineering and immigrant labor. It achieved an economy of unprecedented proportions, built squarely on the backs of a vulnerable, heavily exploited workforce. These elements created a continuous feedback loop. The vast geography generated the wealth to fund industrial expansion, while the political framework provided the stability for continuous scaling, speeding up the cycle with every new discovery. This architecture continues to operate in the present day, shifting its focus from railroads and steel to digital frontiers, artificial intelligence, and advanced semiconductor research. However, the paradoxes embedded in the original code remain active. The tension between immense prosperity and staggering inequality, and the struggle to align democratic ideals with actual inclusion are unresolved features of this system. Maintaining superpower status requires constant maintenance. The true test of the nation's future lies in its ability to repair the structural flaws in its foundation, deciding how to finally complete the work of the American experiment.